Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual health talk. My name is Melissa, and on behalf of the Patient Education and Engagement Program here at the University Health Network, I would like to thank you for attending today's session, Exercising in Cold Weather. I would like to take a minute to thank our planning team, the Patient Education and Engagement Program, the Patient Learning and Experience Center staff, and Education Technology and Media Services. Now, a few words about our online format. This session is being recorded and will be available for viewing with, closed captioning at the same YouTube link afterwards. Today we'll have a presentation for approximately 35 minutes, followed by a question and answer period. To submit your questions, we invite you to go to the link on your screen. You can also scan the code using your smartphone's camera or QR code reader app. You can submit questions anytime during the presentation. We want to quickly thank those who have submitted questions already. It helps us see what people are interested in learning about most. And we have tried our best to address these within the presentation, but we'll definitely answer them again during the question and answer period. We just want you to please keep in mind a few things before you submit your question. You can choose to include your name or stay anonymous, but please note that others will be able to see your name if you do include it. Please do not include any personal details about your health or condition in your question. Our health talks are for general health information only, and the speakers are not here to diagnose or provide treatment recommendations. We will try our best to answer as many questions as we can during the question and answer period. And lastly, you can also vote for your favorite questions by clicking the thumbs up button, and this will help bring questions closer to the top and they will more likely be answered. If you have any questions about the live stream during the session, you can email us at pfep@uhm.ca or leave a voicemail at 416-603-6290, and a member of our team will get back to you shortly. And on the topic of technology, we realize anything can happen when it comes to internet connections. So with that said, should my connection cut out at any point, don't worry, you'll see one of my great colleagues step in to facilitate this session. And next, we would love to hear your feedback about the presentation. Your feedback will help us know what you found helpful, how we can improve our sessions moving forward, and what topics you would like to see in the future. Please go to the link on your screen and complete the survey at the end of the session, or you can scan the code using your smartphone's camera or QR code reader app, and it will take you to the survey. Now, moving on to our presenters. First, we'll have Suzanne, who is today's patient guest speaker. She began her career in laboratory technology research at the University of Toronto, but then discovered a new career in marketing after a 2-year trip working and living in London, England. She is a dedicated follower of theater, especially when she's back in London, and enjoys checking out museums and art galleries in every city she visits. She's also very interested in photography, especially of sports persons, actors and actresses, politicians, and most notably rock and roll talent. Actually, in fact, many of the photos she has have been signed by the person in the photo. And she's not immersing herself in art. You can find her on ski hills, bike paths, and interesting walking routes around the world. And during COVID, she has reconnected with her home kitchen, making scones, challah breads, pies, muffins, soups, and more, all entirely from scratch while still keeping up with the rules of heart-healthy cooking. Next, we have Renee Kaminas, who has worked within the cardiovascular prevention and rehabilitation program at Toronto Rehab for 18 years. She completed a fitness and lifestyle diploma at Georgetown College, a Bachelor of Arts in Kinesiology and Psychology at York University, and is currently working on a Master's in Community Health at the Dalla Lana School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. Renee has worked with the cardiac, diabetes, stroke, and cancer population within the program at Toronto Rehab. So we have a great group of speakers today. And before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the sacred land on which the University Health Network operates. At UHN, we strive to provide safe and inclusive care, and that begins by honoring Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples are the original inhabitants of this land, and for thousands of years have cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. This territory is governed by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Treaty, an agreement to share, care for, and protect the resources around the Great Lakes in peace and respect. Today, this territory is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work and learn on this territory. As we talk about exercising in cold weather today, I personally will also be reflecting on how grateful I am to be able to walk, run, dance, and play on this land, whether it's indoors or out. I'm grateful for this land so that we can participate in activities to maintain our strength, fitness, health, and well-being. This is another step I invite you all to take with me to continue to respect this privilege and recognize Indigenous peoples' beliefs, history, and as the original carers of this land. So now let's turn it over to Suzanne, who will be starting us off. Suzanne, I think you're on mute. Awesome. Yeah, you're unmuted now. Oh, we still can't hear you, Suzanne.
Okay,
Oh,
I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I work full-time, which now translates to being at home all the time during this pandemic. That means I'm still limited to when I can adapt a workout into my schedule. But today I will share with you the experiences I've encountered that work well for me and what I've learned from my cardiac rehab experience. For over 40 years, I developed an indoor and outdoor schedule to help keep me fit, which I love. I must say, keeping fit is a very personal part of my life. I've come to realize that staying active is up to me, and if I wait for someone to join me, it may never happen. The hardest part is the first day you decide to do it. However, keeping fit can even become something you enjoy and can't stop doing. Creating a workout routine may seem difficult and complicated, especially when a medical experience has interrupted your previous lifestyle, but I can guarantee this is only temporary. Speaking as a person who was twice interrupted, I can say with complete confidence, it can be done and the reward is priceless once you put your mind to it. 6 years ago, after getting treatment for a heart condition I was born with, I enrolled in the cardiac rehab program at Toronto Rehab's Rumsey Center. I was more than eager to join in and get myself back on track, both mentally and physically, as quickly as possible. During this program, I accomplished so much more than going past my record of jogging 3 miles in 45 minutes. I also enrolled in every option that was given to me with a social worker, dietitian, physiotherapist, and psychologist. I realized that it wasn't just about getting my body into its previous state or new state of health. It's something that's done from the inside to make you a new person because you really are a new person. It also gave me a chance to meet new people, and I keep in touch with one that I did meet 6 years ago in the program. This year, I had another heart procedure and was enrolled in the cardiac rehab program again. Getting back on track this time was different, not because it was taught virtually. This time it began in the fall when the weather was colder, damper, and which was the opposite of my first experience, but not a negative factor. It just meant that I had to reinvent how to approach a workout regime when the temperature dips, the sun sets earlier, and it feels like you may be taking on too much. Here are some strategies I found helped me get back on track. Of course, everyone is different, and what works for one person may not work for someone else. With everyone hitting the roads and sidewalks to keep fit now, it helped me feel that I am in good company, and I know you will be too. Approach getting ready to work out and go out the door in the cold weather can be the same as you would if you were going to schedule it on a beach in the Caribbean. It makes it more motivating to get out there and stick to the routine. You may want to consider treating yourself to a new exciting clothing item. You may find that what you had in the closet just doesn't fit the bill or excite you. When you're finding something new to wear, remember to think about things such as how you sweat and maintain body heat. This will help you know what types of clothing to be more comfortable for you. Being comfortable and, most importantly, safe are key, especially when you're exercising in colder conditions. As you begin shopping, do your research, look online, ask family or friends for the recommendation, or call a store that specializes in active wear. Do not try to reinvent the jogging or walking shoes you had broken in over the past years to adapt to cold weather. The surfaces you will be traveling along and temperatures will change daily. It's important to be really comfortable. If not, you may end up getting blisters and sores that are totally going to ruin your routine and overall your motivation to exercise. What I found works for me is I have 2 pair of outdoor jogging shoes for average ground conditions. I would suggest that you alternate from one day to the next because it gives your shoes a chance to rest up. I also have an extremely good pair of winter boots with enhanced groups on the soles for my outdoor speed walking. They're very comfortable even during a 2-hour walk. I wear the same workout gear from early fall to late spring. In colder weather, I add tights and a long sleeve thermal top underneath. Remember, we store most heat in our body, in the hands, feet, and head than you may realize. If you ignore these areas, the workout could be less fun, and this is why. I wear my two pair of socks. Sometimes I have the tights underneath and make sure that the fabric will breathe easier. Hands require layers, and I tend to wear finger gloves first and then another pair of finger gloves or mitts over them. It's important that the outer pair of hand coverings have some grip to them because you may want to carry your water bottle. Remember, staying hydrated is important. I have a few head coverings to experiment with, and remember, you must be able to hear people coming from behind, so leave space for your ears. For average cooler days, a hoodie is great that covers your bottom. For extremely colder weather, such as 0 degrees to -5 degrees, I wear a ski jacket that can be easily zipped open when you get overheated, has a hoodie for a sudden change in climate that may happen. Remember to have as much as your outerwear as possible in bright colors so that you can be seen when the sun may be setting near the end of your exercise. Wear sunglasses even in the wintertime to protect your eyes from wind, snow, and glare. Don't forget your favorite scarf that can double as a mask and block the wind. In case of emergency, I always carry a small pouch for my cell phone for speedy access, as well as my identification card with information about my heart procedure that I can easily access and it can be seen. A thought is getting a medical alert bracelet for more people to identify you and your conditions if you're not able to provide them with the immediate access to your personal life. If you have a Superman costume ready to jump into, it makes it that much easier to get out of the house in cold weather at a moment's notice. This way, you're more likely to do it. Personally speaking, just heading out the door is the best part of it. I hope this information will inspire you to create your own routine for outdoor exercise. Have fun, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for sharing your experience exercising in cold weather with us. I know when we were preparing this session, I'd mentioned to you how just learning about your experience and your tips has also motivated me to want to get outside and start exercising. So thank you. And now we'll move on to the rest of our presentation. Next, we have Renee, who will tell us a bit more about how cold weather can affect your body and exercise, tips to exercise safely outdoors, ways to exercise indoors, and some resources at UHN and in the community that can help you learn more about exercising safely and that can help support your exercise goals. So now over to you, Renee.
Okay. Hi, Melissa. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, great. So welcome everybody to this month's health talk. So we're going to talk about how cold weather affects your body and exercise and when you're exercising. And next, okay. All right, so when you're trying to exercise outdoors and do maybe your normal routine or the normal speed that you walk at, it's important to remember that cold weather can make your exercise feel more difficult. And that's because in cold air, the arteries that supply blood and oxygen to your heart, they can actually narrow and tighten, which narrows the space for blood and oxygen to get through. And that can lead to making the exercise feel more difficult. Your body has to work hard to maintain its temperature during this time. And if you do have any history of heart disease, that this can bring on some chest pain sometimes. So a couple of tips that we'll go over to make sure that you are staying safe in cold weather. And really important that if you do plan to exercise outdoors, always check in with your own family doctor or healthcare provider to talk about any new activities that you plan on trying. Okay. So the first thing to do is to check the weather for the temperature and wind chill and the surface conditions outside. So our guidelines and recommendations is that if the temperature and wind chill together is any colder than minus 10 degrees Celsius, then it's better to find an indoor option. And that's because anything colder than that, it will just feel really uncomfortable, too difficult to try and keep up your regular speed or your regular moderate intensity that you might be used to doing in an indoor setting or when it's warmer weather, say in the springtime. So that doesn't mean that you should never step foot outside when it's any colder than that. Of course, we get some colder days in our winters here in the city. And you're going to be going from house to car or car to store or maybe even just a leisurely walk outside. And that's okay. But don't expect to keep up your usual speed and intensity when it's much colder than that. Another good idea is to plan your route. So especially if the weather changes quickly, if it's a nice sunny day and it's cold outside, it can feel quite comfortable. But if it suddenly becomes overcast, then the temperature can feel much different. So you might need to plan a shorter out and back course so that you're always staying close to home and not going too far away. All right, so as Suzanne mentioned, she gave some great examples of how to dress in layers. It really makes a big difference when you're preparing to walk outside. And so the first layer that you want to have against your skin on your body is something that's like a blend material or man-made material. Dri-FIT is a common brand that you might have heard of that helps to wick away moisture and sweat away from your skin. So avoiding 100% cotton clothing, because the cotton will just soak up any sweat when you're sweating with exercise, which you will still do even though it's cold outside. And then when your clothing against your skin becomes wet and damp, again, it makes the exercise feel more difficult as your body's trying to keep itself warm as well. So on top of that first layer, then you want to add a sweater or hoodie, as Suzanne mentioned, something to stay warm. And then your final layer, something waterproof on top that will help to break the wind as well. And especially in the city, even when it's snowing, we can have really wet snow as the temperature fluctuates. So good idea, that will help keep all your underneath layers dry. So this is just an example of what we were talking about. So that Dri-FIT layer against your skin, warm sweater, and then something waterproof on top. And for the bottom, again, you can buy pants or leggings in that same type of material, something warm to go on top, and then waterproof covering over that. Now, it is recommended to wear your usual running shoes when you go outside to do a walk in the wintertime, as long as the path that you're choosing has been cleared of snow and you haven't got very deep snow that you're trying to walk through. Running shoes will give you the best support. They do have some grip on them, and they can be fitted nicely to your foot by tightening the laces. So this is much better than wearing heavy winter boots. And it might not seem like much, but a winter boot does weigh a little bit more than a running shoe, and it will affect the speed that you're able to walk at. So again, if you'd like to get outside and just get some fresh air and there's a lot of snow in your way, then definitely wear winter boots, but expect to walk at a much slower speed, not your usual intensity. If you want to keep that speed up, then wear your running shoes as you normally would. Also covering your head. Suzanne mentioned you lose a lot of heat from your head, so making sure that that's covered up to keep warm, and keeping your hands covered up, especially if you are living with diabetes and you may have decreased sensation in your fingertips and may not notice when your hands are becoming cold. So very important to keep those warm and covered up. And a scarf is a great idea, covering your mouth and nose. And that really helps to warm the air as you're breathing and as you inhale, which can help to prevent any of that, any chest pain that some people might experience, whether it's due to a history of heart disease or even with asthma or bronchitis. At any time that you would inhale cold air, it can make things inside tighten up and constrict. So a scarf will help to warm that air that you're breathing in. All right, a few more tips to keep in mind. So when you are outdoors exercising, and you're finding that it's becoming too difficult, whether it's due to the weather or the speed that you're walking at, then lower your effort, just bring the intensity down. So this chart here, this is called a rating of perceived exertion, the RPE scale. And this is something that we use to have participants rate their level of exertion. This is their own perception of how hard the work is feeling when they're exercising. So number 6 would be equivalent to sitting in a chair, not doing anything at all. So similar to, I'm sitting right now, so I would rate my level of exertion at a 6. 20 would be your maximum effort. And so we hope that anytime you're going out to do any type of exercise, that you're in the range of between 11 and 14. And that's a good intensity to know that you're doing enough, that you're getting benefit from the exercise, but you're not pushing yourself too hard so that you can sustain a certain amount of time, certain amount of minutes of exercise, and not have too high of an intensity, which will mean that you'll have to cut it short if you're pushing too hard. Remember to drink water. You might not think about drinking water as much in the winter time as you do in the summertime. You may not feel thirsty or as dehydrated, but just as important to drink water. And when you get back from your exercise, you were probably still going to be sweating a little bit. So to replenish that by drinking some water. Okay, so a quick message about snow shoveling. So snow shoveling is quite an intense activity. Sometimes we don't think about it like that. We think of it more of just a task and something that needs to be done. But it's quite heavy and intense, and your fitness just might not be high enough to do this activity. You're more likely to use incorrect breathing. And what I mean by that is anytime that you're lifting something heavy or digging into something and lifting, it's a very common tendency to hold your breath and bear down as you lift. And so that would be incorrect breathing, because that makes your blood pressure go up a little bit higher. So it's really important anytime that you're lifting or digging that you always have really keep your breath flowing. Don't ever hold your breath. But not everyone thinks about that when they're shoveling snow, because you're not thinking of it as a type of exercise. And you could have a heart event. This could lead to a heart event. You might hear on the news the day after we have a big snowfall or blizzard in the city that emergency room visits were up from those experiencing symptoms of chest pain or having a heart event. Another reason is, I'll just go back to snow shoveling. Another reason is when you're shoveling snow, you are using your smaller arm muscles as opposed to your larger leg muscles like you do when you're walking. And so that also increases the intensity higher than what you're used to. And so if you do currently have any type of history of heart disease, then it is not recommended to shovel snow. And if you're at risk for heart disease, that might be something that you want to talk to your doctor about. So if you can find someone else to clear your driveway for you or remove snow behind your car, that would be ideal. However, if there's sometimes you don't have another choice and you may need to clear a little bit of snow just to get your car out of the driveway. And so to make this a less risky activity, if you have a snow shovel and just lean it up against your hips and you can walk and push the snow out of the way, that would be much different than digging into snow and trying to lift overhead. And so just trying to do the minimal amount of activity that you need to do just to get your car out if that's necessary. All right, so we'll go through a few more tips for exercising indoors. So if going outside is not an option, but you still want to maintain your activity and throughout the winter, especially here in the city, we have a lot of cold months to get through. So a couple of options we have are finding an indoor spot to walk. So inside malls, community centers, or a gym. Now we understand this is unusual times through COVID, and this is not always an option right now. And that's understandable. So, you know, a lot of people are finding it tricky to find somewhere to get your exercise done specifically this winter. But in, you know, hopefully next winter, we're not dealing with the same type of restrictions we have now. And so, and if that's the case, malls actually open up early before the shops open. And it's quite common that you'll see lots of people go inside malls to just get their walking done in the main hallways. And it's a great idea in the wintertime if it's too cold to get outside, and also in the summer when we have really hot, humid weather. That's a great place to get some walking done. You might be able to get some equipment for your home. So maybe not, you know, a large treadmill or bike that takes up a lot of space. If you've got room for that, that's great. But even getting some free weights to do a little bit of resistance training, or you can get like stretchy resistance TheraBands to do some resistance training exercises, and those don't take up a lot of space at all. Another idea is to follow along with some exercise videos, and there are a lot of options online. Things that you can follow. And we'll go through some of those ideas of some videos that you can find online. And if we're having a few days or even weeks of really cold weather, and it's just not great conditions to get outdoors, then even if you take a few days or a few weeks where you focus more on resistance training, if you're not able to get outside and walk. And so hopefully resistance training is something that you can do at home, that it's more realistic for you. As I said, with some bands or some small free weights, following along to a video online. And at least then you're still doing some movement, you're giving your body a lot of benefit from doing that, even if you can't be walking on a regular basis. All right, so where to go for more information on how to exercise safely. So this is our website here, cardiaccollege.ca. This is the patient education website that is specific to the cardiac rehab program at Toronto Rehab. And on our website, you can find information under the Get Active tab, all about exercise in cold weather. You can see a tab on the left there as well. And thank you, yes, where the mouse is pointing. We also have a sister website, diabetescollege.ca, which has a lot of the similar information, but a little bit more geared towards managing blood sugar with exercise as well. All right, so we'll go through a couple of resources that you can find online as well. So this is another one here, the LEAP service, Gentle Exercises. And just going to move stuff on my screen so I can see. So this was developed by Toronto Rehab's Brain and Spinal Cord program. And they have their own YouTube channel with lots of great videos that you can follow along with some gentle chair exercises and yoga and some breathing exercises. And so you'll find the link there to the their YouTube channel. Another one is Heart at Home. So this was created by two cardiac rehab clinicians at Scarborough Health Network's Central East Cardiac Rehab Program. And they have videos on how to warm up, do resistance training, balance training, and yoga with and without a chair. And that's their website there, gethearthealthy.ca. Another YouTube resource is created by Leslie Sansoni. So this is, you can see a screenshot there of the video. So she's got a few people there showing different intensities behind her, which is great as well. But she does a lot of walking on the spot, so you don't need a lot of space, which is great. Does sidestepping, leg kicks, knee raises. And this is a great resource for when you don't have a lot of space at home, or you just can't get out if it's if the weather has been bad. it's a great way to still get yourself up and moving and get the blood flowing. Another one, Jane Fonda, still going and making videos, which is great to see. So she's got, again, a sort of a walking on the spot workout. So something that you can just do at home, following along, has warm up and cool down, a little bit more of twisting and knee raises. So that can make the intensity go up a little bit more, but still a great resource to follow. And if you still can't find what you're looking for, then contacting the UHN Patient and Family Library, and there's lots of people there that can definitely help you out to find what you're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much. And on behalf of our participants and the patient education program, thank you, Suzanne and Renee, for sharing your expertise and experience around exercising in cold weather. I'm certain that the tips and resources you've shared have inspired us to get moving and to stay active even when it's cold out. So we'll now check our Slido to see what questions have been submitted. You can still submit questions if you haven't already. It's great to see that quite a few have come in already. So to submit questions, please go to slido.com and enter UHN Health Talk in the event code. You can also scan the code using your smartphone's camera or QR code reader app, and it'll take you straight to this page. Just a quick friendly reminder again, you can choose to include your name or stay anonymous. Please note that others will be able to see your name if you do include it. We ask that you please do not include any personal details about your health or condition in your question. Our health talks are for general health information only, so the speakers are not here to diagnose or provide treatment recommendations, and we'll try our best to answer as many questions as we can until about 1:57 p.m. You can also vote for your favorite questions by clicking the thumbs up button, and I see some people have already done that, which is great, and this will help bring the questions closer to the top. We also just want to note that we may rephrase some questions just to help clarify them for the presenters. If we haven't covered your question fully, please feel free to email us afterwards and we'll get more information for you. So starting from the top, I will just highlight this one. Someone has asked, what recommendations do you have for those who want to exercise outside with mild or moderate COPD and or asthma? Renee,
Sure, I can answer. Yep, I can take this question on. So that's great that you still want to get outside and exercise, even living with asthma or COPD. It's still safe to do so. So I guess my tips and recommendations would be if you normally use any medicine or a puffer for asthma, then to carry that with you, that would be a good idea. Cold air can constrict the air spaces and your arteries, as I mentioned. So bringing a puffer with you if you normally use like a rescue inhaler. Using a scarf, a nice warm scarf to cover your mouth and nose, as I mentioned, helps to warm up that air as you're breathing, so it's less triggering to you, as that cold air normally would come in and sort of hit the back of your throat. Planning a short out and back course so you're never far from home. Carrying a cell phone with you is a great safety tip that Suzanne mentioned as well.
Thank you, Renee. And just to clarify for everybody too, that COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, just in case anybody was wondering. Thank you. So we'll head over to the next question now. Let's see here. So someone has said, I think the minimum exercise period is about 10 minutes. If it's very cold, can we reduce the duration, so the amount of time, because our bodies are being stressed by the cold weather, since I understand elite athletes train in high altitudes?
Okay. Yes, so that's right. 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes of exercise is the ideal amount of time in order to get cardiovascular benefit from your exercise. And so even if you're going out less than 10 minutes, you're still getting benefit, overall health benefits for your body. You may not be particularly increasing your cardiovascular fitness, but that's okay. There's lots of other reasons to get up and get moving. And so if it is very cold outside, then yes, getting up even just for a few minutes to get outside and come back in, maybe you go back out a little bit later for a little bit, maybe you do just one round around your house or in your yard and then back inside again. All of that is still beneficial. And we know this from research that was done looking at sitting behavior, and that if we can just reduce our sitting time throughout the day, so especially if we are sitting at a desk job, commuting, sitting watching TV for lots of hours in the day, it's really beneficial to get up and get moving, even if it's only a couple of minutes. And this can help to reduce your risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and even some types of cancer as well. So yes, better than nothing to get up and get out. However, you might find that once you dress really well, as Suzanne and I mentioned, in layers, covering up, warm scarf around your mouth, and once you get outside and get moving, your body will warm up. You start to create some heat. You'll even start to sweat a little bit, and you might find you need to remove some layers, which is fine. And usually once you get going, you'll find that it's not so bad, as long as you're not as cold as that, below that -10 degrees Celsius that I mentioned, and you're probably able to keep going. And Suzanne might be able to talk to this if Suzanne, if you've had any experience with just getting out and getting started, and then you find that, oh, it's not so bad, and I can keep going for a little bit longer.
Yes, I can vouch for that. I really haven't gone more than 5 or 6 days during the whole winter without having an outdoor exercise routine. And you can pretty well gauge when you've reached a comfortable cold level. That will tell you where to turn around and go back home. And you're usually going to be quite okay with that. As long as you, even if you're wearing your gloves, keep your fingers moving inside the gloves at all times, whether it's in and out of your pockets or whatever, but keep your outer extremities, such as the fingers, moving so that it doesn't get worse than you think it's feeling at the moment. And as I went out yesterday, I was telling Renee, I had to declothe, unzipping the hoodie. I did not wear a ski jacket. I wore some Timberland boots, which were fine because I had to go around all the puddles of the melting snow. I had to take off the gloves, open up the hoodie, take off the hat. And by the time I got home, it was so comfortable. I mean, really, even though I was, I think, halfway to my turnaround point, it started to drip as if it was going to rain, turned into a snow shower or whatever, a little bit of rain. I didn't turn around. It's a really hard call, but I think you can gauge how quickly you can make that turnaround point in your route. Routes are a very important thing to map out in your mind and know what your body can cope with.
Thank you, Renee and Suzanne. Those are really helpful reminders that every minute counts and it does add up, and to listen to your body for sure. Thank you. So now we'll head over to the next question. So somebody has asked, what are the signs that I'm tired and should take a day or 2 days off of exercising?
Okay, great. Yeah, so everyone might have different signs of feeling tired, but this is a really important point to make sure that you're listening to your body. So some common signs of fatigue might be, you might feel like your muscles are just feeling really tired, or you haven't got a lot of energy that day, or feeling a little bit lethargic. So that's important. Pay attention to that. Your body maybe is, fighting a little cold or something, and not a good idea to get out and exercise. So take that day off, and tomorrow's a new day, and you can assess how you're feeling then and decide if you should go out and push yourself through some exercise. But nothing wrong with taking a day off when you don't feel 100% or your usual self.
Thanks, Renee. Okay. So the next question asks, I've noticed that elite athletes compete at high speeds and extreme angles on perfectly groomed turf, clay, grass, and other surfaces. When I'm walking, Is it better for knee joints for tracking, to walk safely on uneven surfaces, or is it better to challenge the joint with uneven snow surfaces?
Thanks, Melissa. So for this question, in terms of your knee joints, the most important part for your joints is to make sure that the muscles that surround your joint are strong, because that's what will help to support your joint. So your large thigh muscle that connects from your hip to your knee joint, you want to make sure that one is strong. And there's lots of exercises that you probably find online. For example, like a squat or a leg extension, those types of things to strengthen your large leg muscles. When those are strong, then your knee joint is better supported. And so that would be the best thing to do for your knees. I would not recommend choosing a surface that is uneven with snow or maybe even ice, just because it's very unpredictable. Also, the last thing that anybody wants is a fall. A fall can be really detrimental, have a lot of consequences. You could have a serious injury that puts you out for weeks, months, and really sets you back. So with snow surfaces and winter conditions, better to find a clear, even path to walk on. And there's other things, more like resistance training to strengthen the muscles. That would be the best thing for your knee joints.
Thanks, Renee. And that's something that you can do indoors or outdoors. So that's awesome. Thank you. Okay. So somebody has asked, any tips on how to keep active for pregnant women during cold weather?
Yeah, great question. So definitely advisable for pregnant women to keep moving and exercising just as usual if you were active previous to your pregnancy. Always double check with your doctor if there's any particular conditions that are preventing you from exercising during pregnancy. Could be due to blood pressure, or if you're supposed to be staying off your feet. But for the most part, if everything is going along well and your doctor has given you clearance, then great idea to get outside, get that fresh air, dressing in layers, again, if possible. You're probably going to be walking at a slower speed as you progress throughout your pregnancy. And biggest thing probably really to avoid a fall. So making sure that you are paying attention to the conditions when you're walking, that you have a nice clear path with no ice that will increase your risk of falling.
Thank you, Renee. That's a really great safety reminder. And again, to always check with your healthcare provider first before you start any exercises or new exercises. Thank you. Okay. So the next question is, what's the difference between DOMS, so delayed onset muscle soreness, acute pain, and chronic pain?
Okay. Delayed onset muscle soreness is something that happens if you are doing any exercises, most likely resistance training exercises that are focused on strengthening your muscles. And if it's a new exercise or it's more intense than what you're used to, you'll probably feel some muscle soreness that happens the next day. So that's why it's delayed, at least 24 hours later. And it's a bit of a trick because you feel great when you're doing the exercise, but then you wake up the next morning feeling a little bit sore and achy. But the difference between that and acute pain and chronic pain is that there's no danger to this pain. It's a normal occurrence that happens. It's expected. The reason that it happens is because every time you're working your muscle, the tiny little muscle fibers are becoming slightly damaged or torn, and then, which is a normal thing to happen. And then the process of rebuilding those muscle fibers that your body naturally does, that's what helps to make your muscles stronger and bigger over time. And so it's okay to feel a little bit of muscle soreness as long as it lasts for maybe a day or two, and then it should slowly start to get better as the days go on. Acute pain is most likely related to a sudden injury, or maybe you've twisted something. And so that's important to pay attention to. Don't push through acute pain. whether it's muscle pain, joint pain, or if you're having chest pain. Don't push through that. It's important to pay attention to that. Lower your intensity, stop what you're doing if needed, turn back home. Depending on the seriousness of it, contacting your doctor. If it's a muscle or joint problem, then putting on some ice on the area can help. And chronic pain. So chronic pain's tough. Chronic pain can be from various different reasons. It can be from a previous injury, a previous surgery, but it's basically pain that somebody would experience every day for weeks, months, years sometimes. And it can be very tricky to treat chronic pain. So I would definitely seek out advice from your doctor. There are chronic pain clinics that exist where you can learn different techniques such as relaxation techniques, breathing techniques, seeing a physiotherapist to pay attention to those particular areas that bring on chronic pain, so you can learn very specific exercises or stretching that might help. But definitely much more of a challenge living with chronic pain compared to an acute situation or the muscle soreness that just goes away in a day or two.
Thanks, Renee. That was really a really great clarification explanation of the different terms. I know a couple of us were smiling when you're explaining DOMS, because I think that's something that many of us have experienced before, but maybe not as well aware of why that was actually happening. So personally, thank you for explaining that to us. Okay, so we have a couple more questions here. Somebody has asked, in cold weather, are there skincare products I should use as protection from wind or to stay warmer?
Thanks, Melissa. So in terms of skincare products, nothing in particular that I can think of to promote. Just the first thing that comes to mind is if you're in cold weather, it can be very dry, and even walking against wind. I find using like some lip balm or chapstick can really make a big difference. So that is probably more comfortable to have something like that if you're out in the cold. And nothing in particular that would help you to stay warmer, nothing I can think of. But again, when you get back inside from the cold weather, since it can be very dry during the winter, you may want to just use some regular moisturizer for your hands or your face if that was exposed, because you'll notice that will feel much more dry in the wintertime.
Can I suggest something? I'm on?
Yep.
Okay, so I put my regular serum on in the morning. If I'm going to go and work out, whether it's indoors or outdoors, the minute I get in the house, I completely take it off, completely, because and maybe not even reapply it depending on what time of day it is, because you need your face to breathe. And I've read articles where you shouldn't be doing heavy cosmetics overnight because I think your skin repairs at that time. I may be wrong. But definitely, whether you think you're sweating or not, completely remove everything off your face the minute you get in from your workout routine.
Thanks, Suzanne, and thank you, Renee, for sure. And even checking in with your healthcare provider to see if they have some skin products or moisturizers to recommend, or even speaking to your pharmacist can be a really great option too. Thank you both. Okay, so the next question. I recently got a QI on recommendation from one of my doctors. While watching this webinar, I did 20 minutes. I have arthritis in most parts of my body, and this is working well for me. Just wanted to share. So thank you, whoever submitted this comment, for sharing your experience. And it's great to hear that you were exercising while watching this webinar, because that's a really great way to multitask and get your minutes in. So thank you for sharing. So the next question. Do you know of any programs that help people access exercise or safety gear at lower cost? We can't buy new items right now, but it sounds like some of these importance are very important for safety.
Yeah, great question. A lot of equipment to use at home can be really costly, like, any large machines, as I mentioned, like a treadmill, elliptical, bike. Buying those types of equipment secondhand online, I would just caution you to, where you're buying from. Usually there won't be any more warranty on buying something secondhand. So just be mindful of that if you choose to go the secondhand route. Um, TheraBands and resistance training, like free weights, that's much more cost effective. TheraBands you could buy for, I would say, under $10. Free weights cost less for the amount. If you're using 2 pounds, 3 pounds, they cost less than an 8-pound, 10-pound weight, and a little more as you go higher. You can check online. Although I've heard that during COVID, it's been hard to find a lot of this equipment. It's been sold out everywhere. Even Amazon, I think, was sold out of free weights, which is good to hear that a lot of people are searching out this type of equipment and wanting to exercise, but it does make it tough to find. In terms of getting access or to stuff at lower cost, check with your family doctor. They might be able to help you find resources, or if you are part of like a family health team that has access to a social worker, they are a great resource to find different places where you could access things at lower cost. And even the UHN patient libraries might be able to help you out. I'm not sure, Melissa, if you've got any other resources to share.
Nope, that was perfect. I was also thinking of our awesome patient librarians as well, because I know they're very resourceful when it comes to finding community programs. So we can, if you email us later, we'll provide our email. We can connect you with the patient libraries, or if you rewind our recording, to get their contact information. Thank you, Renee. So we'll go to the next one. Oh, I see we have one question left. And there's still time to submit a question. So if you go to slido.com and enter UHN Health Talk in the event code, we'll try our best to answer your questions by 1:57 p.m. So this question says, I'm afraid of eventually returning to machine exercises at the gym, although I tried to simulate the exercises at home with bands and barbells and facing my less challenged body. I didn't have a choice with the pandemic though. Which professionals can help me get used to the gym without injury?
Thanks, Melissa. So good question. Always good to be mindful that you don't jump into anything that could cause injury. So I would suggest working with a kinesiologist, which is the profession that I am, a registered kinesiologist. We are regulated health professionals, and which means that you can find a kinesiologist in your area, and that's a great resource. Physiotherapists are also great if you have access to one, and they can help you out very specifically with certain movements or exercises or stretching that you need help with, especially if you've had any previous injuries that you want to be mindful of when you're getting back to exercise and back to the gym.
Thank you, Renee. And I just have a follow-up question. So what are some ways that someone would be able to be referred or connected to a kinesiologist or a physiotherapist?
You could start with your family doctor. That's always your first resource to try out. Depending on if you are part of sort of family health teams, you might have kinesiologists and physiotherapists that are part of the groups that you're able to access. Otherwise, you're probably paying out of pocket for these services unless you have any of your own private coverage. However, there is some physiotherapy can be covered in certain situations. So start with your family doctor, and then they would be able to direct you to the right spot or let you know if you would be eligible for any coverage for these services.
Thanks, Renee. That's good to know. Let's see. Oh, so I see we don't have any questions left, and we are near 1 o'clock anyways, but I just wanted to say thank you everyone for attending today's session, and thank you so much Renee and Suzanne for answering all those awesome and really thoughtful questions. So thank you everyone for attending today's session and submitting your questions. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, or if you think of another question afterwards, please email us at pfep@uhn.ca, and we will try to respond within 1 week. Earlier, we were talking about the patient libraries. If you'd like their contact information, you can email us at pfep@uhn.ca as well, and we can connect you with our amazing health information specialists. Your feedback is also very important to us, so please go to the link on your screen and complete the survey. This helps us also know what topics you would like to see at future sessions. You can also scan the code using your smartphone's camera or QR code reader app, and it'll take you straight to the survey. And finally, to find out about our next talk, please subscribe to our MailChimp e-newsletter and get up-to-date information about events and new resources at UHN. To fill out a form to subscribe, please go to the link on your screen or again, scan the code. And thank you, and I hope to see you at our next talk.